Now, due
we-
diligence. We're under contract.
Yeah.
As realtors, we help our clients figure
If
out
you're keeping track at home, we're on step 7.
step 7. We're starting the due diligence now, the part of the process where we make sure the home is safe, sound, truly what you expected before you commit to fully closing. So it's your chance to have any inspections you want. We as realtors will help you find providers, help you put those things in place, and get you reports based on what you want. We'll tell you what's typical and what's available, get them hired for you, help you facilitate all that. You're welcome to attend those inspections. You get written reports.
Yeah, so let's walk through the different contingencies, okay? And there's a handful of them. And a contingency is a thing that the buyer has to clear and agree to before they move forward with the purchase. I think is that a good definition?
Yeah, it's not so like regimented like that. It's like, okay, we got our title docs, everything looks good. It's not.
Yeah, so let's
Yeah.
walk through these and understand the timeline is from when you go under contract to when you actually finalize and close, as we call it, or, we do a signing and closing. It can be anywhere from 30 to 45 days. The due diligence period may be shorter. That only may be 2 weeks of it where you're doing your inspection. So let's talk about some of these things. So first off, Tracy, you talked about inspections, and again, it can be a whole gamut of things. It's really up to the buyer what type of inspections they would like to have done, correct?
Right. And we'll be talking about that, right? And typically most buyers are going to get a full home. It's sort of a once over. The home inspector has a checklist. They kind of go from top to bottom. We help find those. They in New Mexico need to be licensed, and they do that in person, and you're welcome to attend. And then they do a written report follow up.
So along that, you said they have to be licensed. There's also very specific guidelines on what the home inspector has to look at and what they don't look at also, which is important to understand. And so there are guidelines, and when you call it the full home inspection, that's what you're getting. But on top of that, it could be things like, radon, obviously, there's pest usually.
There's septic, there's well, there's solar, there's pool, there's,
Right.
whatever the house might have, and
Yeah.
we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
So
Great.
then we're in the due diligence period. Some of the other things, part of due diligence, is if you're getting a loan, there's an appraisal typically required. Some homes can get an appraisal waiver, so it's not required if you don't want it. But most homes have an appraisal when there's a loan.
So let me say something, because this is one of those, again, pro tips that you wouldn't really think about until you're in the middle of it. We talk about home inspections, and it's the full home inspection by a licensed inspector that does, follows a specific list. But lenders will talk about the home inspection, but that's a different home inspection. That's what the appraiser does.
And
Actually goes and visits the house, but it's still both called home inspection, so it can throw you off.
Yeah, and the appraiser doesn't do what the other home inspector does, right? The appraiser is going to verify square footage, look at the quality of the finishes, and determine the value. Because if there's a lender, the lender doesn't really get to see the house. So the lender says, I'm going to have you hire this appraiser who's going to justify that we should lend you this much money for that house. So they're basically the eyes of the lender.
Correct. Yeah. So that's another, again, that's another
part of the due diligence.
Part of the due diligence, part of the contingencies that it has to appraise for the value of what the buyer offered to pay.
Otherwise, there's things that happen if it doesn't appraise for the agreed purchase price, but we don't need to go into that right now.
Yeah.
A couple other main due diligence things, title work. Is it clear? Can they convey clear title to you with no encumbrances, no liens against the property type of thing?
Meaning you're actually purchasing what you think you're purchasing, and there's nobody else that owns it. That's really what title insurance is.
Right. And another big one is homeowners insurance. So I don't know, back in the 1970s, Tego, not to date us too much, but do you remember how cars were lemons more common? Like a car was a lemon.
Yeah.
You constantly had problems with your car, and you'd say it's a lemon. I can't deal with this car anymore. Houses are the same way. There are houses that have had a lot of homeowners insurance claims, and they're considered a higher risk for insurance companies. So you want to make sure you can get insurance on the house.
Yeah, the takeaway on that is for insurance, for homeowners insurance, don't think of it just as this kind of throwaway thing that you have to do later. Do it right up front so you know right away there's no issues with getting insurance on that property and what the cost is going to be.
I was going to say the insurance costs can vary greatly from house to house, especially if you're in a fire or flood risk area. Some of the mountain properties may require you to cut back trees away from the house or whatever.
And we do
Uh,
have areas, especially when you get south of Albuquerque, going into, Bosque Farms, Los Lunas, those areas, Berlin, that are in flood zones as well. But there's also flood zone areas in the Northeast Heights. So
right.
yeah, it's one of those things that will come up, and you just need to understand that. And usually when you're looking at properties, you'll know if the property is in a flood zone.
Okay, so while we're in the due diligence period, right, sort of behind the scenes, the lender is doing their part along with you.
Yeah, it's kind of working in parallel. We're doing the inspections, we're checking documents, we're doing all this other stuff, but then the lender's still got this whole thing going on over here, right?
Right. And when they say they need something from you, they usually needed it yesterday to keep the loan moving forward. So it's sort of like when you're working full time and you've got a full life after work, it can be hard to keep the lending part going. But the lender is working behind the scenes. They're verifying income, assets, employment. They're going to a final loan underwriting where somebody else looks at the file and says, have they dotted all the T's and crossed all the I's? Are we
That
comfortable
was pretty funny.
making this loan? They're also locking your interest rate with you when it's appropriate. And they'll be watching interest rates. They'll be talking to you and saying, well, if you want to do this or that with your interest rate, we can. If you pay $100 or whatever, we can get you a little better or blah, blah, right? They're going to go through all those things and lock it with you. So that's going on in the background. So your due diligence includes the lending part.
So let's talk about this. So we're talking about, again, this due diligence period. We call it the contract to close period many times, from when you're under contract, pending, to when you actually go and sign for the home. This is the most stressful part for the buyers. Let's just talk about that, because it's exciting when you're out shopping for homes. You're looking at homes, you're all excited. You're writing an offer, you win the offer. It's all exciting. But there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of things happening here. And this is when you're going to be getting a lot of questions from your lender, from your realtor, from your realtor's transaction coordinator, from the home inspector, from all these things. You just have to understand there's going to be a lot coming at you, and lean on your realtor to help you navigate the steps as you go along. I know we've been talking about this here, but that period, just understand there's going to be things that go sideways.
It happens. Or they need you to do something today and you're in the middle of a big school project or you're in the middle of something and you can't just drop everything and you get nervous and stressed out. So our role as realtors is to help you stay calm, help you understand what's urgent, what's not urgent, what we can help you with to help you move forward comfortably. We can try to handle most of the details to help you make good decisions.